Okay, we're gonna call the meeting to order. Start with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call.
He's not here. Hugh Glasgow?
Here.
Sarah Hefner? Here. Tony Hendricks?
Here.
Rich Mozinski? Not here. Steve Mozinski?
Here.
Brad may or may not make it, and I'm here.
All right, do I have a motion to approve last month's minutes? Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next on the list, we're going to have Jerry Jackson talk from the city. We'll let him talk in case he needs to get somewhere. So if you would like to come up and...
Thank you.
Is that mic turn on over there?
Go to the table.
Yeah, come up to the little table.
Turn on?
Right here.
Yeah,
Door.
Is the light on?
there's a little green light
Oh,
on.
yeah, light on. I can't hear you. Turn it
I
on.
don't-
Can you hear?
I don't think it's on.
There's a green light.
Push the button at the bottom.
Looks
Yeah.
like the light.
There you go. Never mind that.
Yeah, okay, that green light's a lot brighter. How's that?
Good for the home viewers?
Do you hear me? Okay. I just wanted to come by today and kind of update the Drainage Board and some of the city projects going on. I think there's a need for better communication between the city and the Drainage Board, and so this was Christy and I were meeting on another issue, and I thought we talked about it, and I thought this was a good chance for me to come by. Short term, we've got a big sewer separation in the project in the Monroe Manor area. That's there at Boyd and Monroe Street. That project, the drainage from that whole subdivision now goes, well, about half now. Originally, all the subdivision through the treatment plant and then eventually to Travis Ditch. When we finish separating sewers there, the water will still go to Travis Ditch, but now it'll be a separate storm sewer, and it'll be detained in our Head Creek wetland, 20-acre shallow wetland, detained there and then discharged into Travis Ditch. So it's the same volume of water, different pathway to get it to the county drain, and will be of a higher quality when we're done because it'll be separate storm sewer, storm water, and through a treatment wetland. That project is scheduled for. This is a two-phase project. We did about half the neighborhood in 16, and now we're going to finish it. The project will start midsummer and finish at the end of 22. So that one, the neighborhood's been on me to get that one finished, so it's nice to get that one going. The longer term, we have another project that'll have a discharge to Travis Ditch. That'd be Indiana Avenue. Indiana Avenue is going to be reconstructed from Lincoln Way down to the Presbyterian Church at Kingsbury. And when it's reconstructed, it'll be all new infrastructure under the road. So new storm sewer, new sanitary sewer, new water, and the discharge of that, all that storm water now goes through the treatment plant because it's a combined sewer system. There'll be a new storm sewer that'll wind up discharging into Travis Ditch eventually. There'll be a new storm basin near the treatment plant, on the north side of the treatment plant, near INDOT, near the state highway. So it'll be detained there, and then it'll go into the old storm sewer, which goes into our 20-acre wetland. So it'll be detained there. So there'll be two basins before it gets to Travis Ditch. So again, same kind of scenario. We're separating sewers, so we'll have cleaner water to discharge Travis Ditch, and there's a system to detain it. That project, the INDOT is solicited for design right now, so they're doing their road design, and as soon as they get an engineer on board, then we're going to solicit for the infrastructure, the water, sewer, storm. The last project I kind of wanted to mention was one that this board has been involved with quite a bit, the Boyd Boulevard Storm Sewer Shures Ditch project. That was funded through a TIF funds, and right now we don't have the TIF funds to finish it, so we've got a storm sewer and a basin, and the project involves going up north of Lincoln Way and separating sewers, and then replacing a restricted part of Shures Ditch. The city engineer is applying for an EDA grant, and I don't really have details on that grant to give you, but he's applying for an EDA grant that would fund that project. So as that moves along and we get toward design, I'll be back to show that to the board and say, hey, here's what we propose. And so that one's an important one to me. It takes an awful lot of stormwater off the treatment plant. Removes a bottleneck in Shures Ditch that's caused us all a bunch of headaches. So I'm looking forward to getting that one done. So that was really kind of all I wanted to talk about today. Are there any questions from the board members?
Shures Ditch, does the city have any plans of taking that over? Does the city have any plans of taking that drain over? Because right now the county's got control in there and it's wholly in the city area.
We need to discuss that and see what's the best way to manage it. If it's the north-south connector kind of enters into this too, because that comes along that same area, and I think we need to, county and city need to kind of get a plan to decide whether that's the best way. It makes sense to me maybe because we're draining a big city area.
Yeah.
Maybe take ownership of it from its start to the connection point in Travis. Might make sense.
Makes sense to me too, but
Okay.
I mean, we've talked about this a couple times over the last 3 years and I don't see any action on the city's part to take ownership.
Very true. We need to figure out a little bit. I'll push that. Try to figure out. I'm not even quite sure the path on that. So I need to do a little research and figure out what would be the path to ownership. Whether that's a action by the Drainage Board. I know there's parts that are not public drain, and we need to figure a path for that too. So. Okay.
So I'm very familiar with this far southern reaches of the Travis Ditch where it reaches the Kankakee. Does that mean we're going to have increased flow down there?
It's the same volume that's already going there. It'll be detained in a separate conveyance system. So same volume, lower flow rate.
Just less going through your treatment plant?
Less going through the treatment plant. Yeah. And a lot of our sewer separation projects will be in this mold because the whole city slopes to the south, and the drainage now all goes to the south. It's just most of it goes through the treatment plant. Any other questions? All right, feel free to contact me if you got questions. In the meanwhile, I'll try to keep the board up to date.
As long as we get the Shures Ditch taken care of, we'll be happy.
I know that's an issue. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thanks for coming.
I don't know. Quiet. All right, Hudson Lake reports. Christine?
To update from last month, the 3 items that we were asked to do. So first item, we were asked to contact the DNR about raising the weir, and the DNR said any tampering or altering of the weir is considered felony, or we can't do it. The DNR said no messing around with the weir, so that's a no on that. The second point was the county highway took a bunch of gravel out to Lakeshore Drive and put stone all the way along that, and it looks nice. Drove along it. Third thing was I got in touch with H&G to schedule a maintenance inspection for the weir, and we agreed upon a price, which I emailed to you guys, but we are still awaiting scheduling to do that. And then another point I also wanted to make was that easement where the drainage easement over the pipe where the weir is, that's all on private property. And just so everybody knows, that's all contained on private property. And that Canal Street that appears to still be a street is actually vacated and belongs to the parcel to the south. So just so everybody knows, that's all private property. And the only thing that's public is Canal Street that runs kind of along the lake, not really on the lake, but next to the houses that are on the lake. But then the connector street of Canal, that's actually vacated, so, just so everybody's aware of that. What were the other things we had to take care of? I've been doing a weekly inspection and taking measurements of the level. It's been holding steady at about 7.5 inches, which is about 6/10. So even with the rain and all that, it's been holding steady, about the same level. It's a little over 7 inches. So, and I went out there last Friday and took a reading. So I'm keeping a new log of the measurements I take every week, plus whatever events happen that week, I'll enter that into a notes part. I think that was all the follow-up from last month that we had to do.
Yeah, the only thing was the DNR said we cannot temporarily raise that weir. They said you have to go through the court proceeding, and I guess it's up to this board, my opinion, and can't speak for Brad, but they said the court proceeding would go through circuit court, so it's a long drawn out process. If the board would like to start it, they'd have to tell Brad to start it. That's the only way you change that legal lake limit, because that's legal, and that's through the circuit court. It's not impossible, it just takes a lot of time.
What's our reading, what does the readings say now that we're supposed to have?
The legal limit, 763.09 in 29 datum. That's the legal limit. That was set by the courts back in like 48, 49, and that's where the weir was supposedly set at, was the legal limit. And we keep it about, right now it's about 7 inches above that. But in talking to the highway department, they laid that stone there and they said 7 inches. That's where it's good for them to not wash that road out. So they did bring stone out to keep it passable for people, because people need that for access to get to their homes. They felt like 7 inches was optimal, and if it gets higher than that, it's gonna wash that road out. So it's up to the commissioners. Like I've said before, I'm not gonna keep the water over that road. I'm not doing it. If the commissioners wanna say, they're okay with water over the road, that's their final call, but, that's public right of way. I'm not gonna compromise that unless I'm told otherwise.
Okay.
I
All right.
think that's all I have. Do you have anything else?
No.
Okay.
Okay. We can bring the rest up at public comment.
Okay.
All right, Brad's not here for the attorney report, so we'll move on to Tony.
The only report I have, which kind of dovetails into joint board reports, is the Kankakee River Yellow River Basin Commission. The trees are obviously, we're not cutting leaners or dead trees now because it's past April, and they've cleaned up all the trees, but you might see out there is some planting of grass. The Kankakee Basin Commission is going to plant some areas to make sure that they're protected from erosion. And other than that, they're moving on with projects in the yellow, so hopefully the more they move on and more we support them moving on projects in the yellow upstream, like Marshall County, the less sand we're going to get in our Kankakee. And they are also working diligently downstream to make sure the bridges don't trap trees, and there are a bunch of trees that they're getting trapped at the railroad bridge or the state line bridge, so it's good that the Kankakee River Basin Commission is making sure we don't get backed up water on us. The last one is they're discussing some more river gauges for river heights, which will be live gauges just like we have now, but they're a lot cheaper, so we can see up in our tributaries how the water rises and falls with rain events in specific areas. So we might see some of those, which would be really nice, so we can track things, especially when we're talking about places like Hudson Lake, which drain into our ditches and streams, how fast they rise and fall prior to getting downstream where the gauges are that we know now. That's all I have.
Okay. Any questions for Tony? Yeah. All right. We'll move on to old business. Do we have any old business?
New business.
No? New business?
I have new business. I have a request by a lot owner at Galena Meadows. Galena Meadows is a subdivision on 1000 North in Galena Township, and that is an urban drain, which I typically maintain the drainage system in that by request every year. So I took it right out there yesterday, and it is in need of some maintenance and some manicuring and some possible cleaning of the easement. So if I could get a motion from the board to seek bids to do the maintenance out there that is needed on all the overgrown easements.
There is money there.
There is money in that fund. It's assessed. It collects money every year.
Okay. Do I have a motion to continue on with that? To get some
Motion to
bids?
seek bids for, can you name that project again?
That's Galena Meadows subdivision on 1000 North.
So move.
A second. We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
I have some new business that, or maybe questions. The Travis Ditch is brought up several times. The last 3/4 mile of Travis Ditch where it enters into the Kankakee is not a regulated waterway.
Correct.
The regulated waterway has been plugged up, used to make a right turn. And it's, you know, what's going on with that, Tony? I mean, there's a lot of water goes down there and it's not regulated.
Chrissy can help, but I believe that has come before, or tried to come before this board 2 or maybe 3 times. And that was, so there was a meeting with, I believe, Jerry Jackson, the mayor of the city of LaPorte, and Christie and Scott Pilaf, the executive director, about the Travis and anything Kankakee related, about the same thing, about how do we get some jurisdiction over the Travis so we can actually start funding some maintenance and cleaning of the Travis. And one of the sticking points, and Christie can dovetail in on it, is the section that is regulated and documented is not the section that outlets.
Right.
Yeah,
It was been shifted.
the Travis is regulated but not assessed from the treatment plant down to 1200 South, and then it stops. And from there, it takes a 90-degree.
Which is completely filled in. The 90 degrees.
I've been there. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. And then that it's named the Hildebrandt, and it goes along 1200 South and then turns south and goes to the river. Known as the Hildebrandt, regulated but not assessed again. Yeah, like as Tony said, we've had hearings over the last 40 years to try to assess the Travis, and they never passed because nobody wants to pay the assessment, and it also takes in a huge, like pretty much almost all of the city is in that watershed. So then there was a question of how we were gonna incorporate the city into our project or split it up and just assess the ag land, but is that fair? So there's a lot of questions.
Well, there's a lot of sand goes into Kankakee right there at that last 3/4 of a mile.
Yeah, well, we have the trap at the mouth of the trap. So there's a sediment trap there on the Kankakee to handle that silt coming out of the Travis. But, yeah, I don't know why it's not regulated. I mean, you know, back when they made those regulated or
Of
not,
all the
there's
ditches
no.
that go into Kankakee, the Travis carries the most water.
Right,
And
yeah. It still gets there, and we put that's why they put that sediment trap there, because, for that reason. But from the river up to 1200, it's private. So, I don't know.
You could have that discussion with Brad and ask him possible scenarios too. Because that's still a process.
What to do.
Well, my concern is there's like 5 dams there in that lower reaches of the Travis. It drops a big bunch, and there's a whole bunch of sand goes with it. At some point, those dams are gonna need maintenance. I mean, if they weren't there, the Kankakee would be a whole lot worse hurt. And it's all private owned right now. It's working, At some point, it's not gonna.
Yeah, so I think it's less of a hurdle to get jurisdiction and more of a hurdle to get assessment.
Yeah, if you wanted to get a petition together to have that portion from the river to 1200 be made regulated, and then get enough support to do an assessment, which I know I've gotten that whole watershed together from the river all the way up to the city, because that includes the shores and goes north of the city. It's big, but that was the discussion, is how do we assess the rural area? And then you got this, you got two different types of parcels. How do you make it fair? How do you make it fair and equitable for everybody to feel like they're not putting money into something that they're getting no benefit? That they would feel that they don't get a benefit from. So that's another thing that we talked about when we met with Jerry, was how to handle the Travis and how to get some more funding for that, because it's chock full of trees, it needs cleaned.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna disagree on that.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. Probably the best move is to ask Brad what it takes to get jurisdiction and then move to potential later funding. Jurisdiction, I don't think, is that big of a problem, as long as the owners are fine.
Yeah, there's just that
We don't
last
have,
couple miles.
yeah, we don't have jurisdiction right now.
Yeah, that's the assessment part, right?
We'll leave that up to the board member. There you go, Hugh.
And we can bring that up to Brad next meeting.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any more new business? Okay, claims.
Claims, I have 3 claims. First claim is from M&K Excavating for the removal of 2 beaver dams and sand from the Cook Ditch, because we have we always have beavers out there on that stretch of the Cook for whatever reason. So we had a dam that had been sitting there for a while. The neighbor actually trapped it for us. And then we had to have the dam removed, so that was $1,750 to come out of the Cook Ditch Fund, and there's money in there for that. Do we need to do all these together?
I would think so.
Yeah.
Next one is from, and Steve's aware of also the ongoing beaver problem on the west arm of the Bull Ditch, that we've been in communication with each other and the owners out there. So we're kind of trying to explore a remedy for why they build at the same place all the time. Which I kind of think I know why. Because there's a pipe that feeds in there, and there's constant water movement and noise, and they love it there. So we're always having to take them out. So I'm just trying to work on a long-term remedy for that. So we had a beaver dam there that was pretty big, that was holding a ton of water back on the people to the north. So we had that taken out by J&J Excavating, and that bill for that instance was April 20th, and that was $1,000. And then we had a trapper come in and trap. To his best knowledge, he got all of them out. I'm still awaiting an invoice from him for that. That was Dennis Mann. And then we had in the meantime, they rebuilt the dam again, because, you have to take it out to relieve the water. They trap, and then we start rebuilding, and then we trap it, and then you still have to take the dam out after it's all been trapped out. So there was a second instance of dam removal of May 6th for an additional $1,000 for that. That comes out of the Bull Ditch for J&J, so that's $2,000 total. I walked out there yesterday, talked to the owners to the north, and talked to the landowners where the dam is, where the beaver activity is. So it's an ongoing situation that's been going on for probably 10 years. I'm gonna try to look for some long-term solution to it, because we're all sick and tired of dealing with it. It never ends. So those are the 3 claims.
Do I have a motion to pay the 3 claims? Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more the only discussion I have, do we want to include the Dennis Mann when you get that, to go ahead and pay that at the same time?
Yeah, and I've been pestering him to get me an invoice. I think he said he mailed it. I'm gonna have him send it to me again, because I don't have it.
That'd be the only thing I'd say, let's pay that at the same time.
Yeah,
That's all right with you two.
yeah. He said he mailed it, and I don't know. Sometimes we have mail problems.
All right,
Who cleaned the Beaver Dam out the second time?
J&J did it both times.
Okay.
Because he had an excavator sitting right there, because he farmed, so it was just easier and quicker, because the guys to the north, he gets water in the basement when the water gets too high, and it's just a bad situation. So the quicker we can get in and get out, the better it is for everybody.
okay. So the motion is that we pay all the claims and also pay Dennis Mann when that claim comes in for doing that work. So, any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Pay the claim.
Okay, thank you.
No more claims?
Nope, that's it.
Joint board reports. Do you have anybody have any joint board reports? Only one.
Yeah, just like, we're on hold on river work until October. But we just, we work with the river director every single day on whatever projects we have going on, so that's about it for that.
Okay. Public comment. Got all of them, one at a time. We're gonna kind of cut everybody down to 3 or 4 minutes so we can get everybody through today, if that's okay. It's just, gotta take our time. All right.
I'm Roger Chester, longtime resident.
Can you walk over by the mic there, please, sir? Yeah, you stand right there.
Just clear it up. Roger Tesco, longtime resident of Hudson Lake, and I also live on Lakeshore Drive. I appreciate the 7+ inches that we're at now. I'm not sure why we don't recognize Mike's 16 years of working with that drain and recognizing 9 inches as being the sweet spot for the lake. It makes everybody happy. Another issue, the county, they came through and put that gravel down. Well, they put pea gravel down with no fines. So although if you stay on the east side of the road, it's pretty solid, but everything that didn't find its way packed down just kind of mushed towards the lake. So right now there's like a barrier there where the water goes to. Sooner or later, with the waves, that's going to wash into the lake. Although it'd be a great place for bluegills to bed, that part of the pea gravel will be gone. If you go down to the north end of Lakeshore Drive, it gets real deep on the left side of the road, like 6 inches deep. I have a friend that drove through there early on. He had to stop, get out, and lock his hubs in because he was stuck in the road. If a motorcycle happens to go down there, it'll be a real safety issue if they get off to the left side of the road going down there. I know they're really restricted on what kind of gravel they could put down, but pea gravel with no fines it doesn't really stay packed. I'm not sure what the issue is, but it works kinda. I have witnessed a couple cars go by my house at 40, 50 miles an hour, kids out joyriding. It's a very wide road right now if you take into consideration all that extra humped up gravel that's over by the lake. I don't know what they can do, but I think there's a safety issue there. That's about all.
Okay, we can get with Dwayne and see if there's any way to compact that or something, and see what he can come up with for that.
Yeah, it's real soft next to the lake.
Okay, we'll get a hold of Dwayne and see what we can come up with for you. Okay. And next, anyone else?
I have a few thoughts. I'm trying not to get too close. So this is just a little history of, this is a picture on my wall that shows how shallow the lake is on the west side as well as along the edges. And it's a mere 3 feet. It's not anywhere near that. This was a picture from a point in time. It's nowhere near that right now. And so I just want to remind everybody of the 2005 to 2000. I want to thank Christine, by the way, because she created a site for us with a bunch of data for us, and that was a wonderful thing. But anyway, In 2005, the drain was left open and water got too low, and we ended up drying up. We literally lost 40 to 60% of the lake, and that's recorded in the diagnostic report of 2008. And so literally 50 to 60% of the area of Hudson Lake was gone, dried out. In front of my property, I've been there 23 years. I could mow and everything. Right now, I have beaver and swans and eagles and everything else, and obviously they would not have a place to be if this happens. So when we get anxious and we're begging for the 9 to 12 inches, it's not, disrespect that people get to their properties and things like that. It's really about the health of the lake. And when I talked to Mike Poland yesterday, I says, how did you do it? Your 9 to 12 inches and everything. And he mentioned the 9 inches of sweet spot, and then the 12 inches was to help us get through the summer, because we have evaporation throughout the summer. And the lower the water gets, the warmer it gets, and the faster it evaporates. So it's difficult to calculate. And maybe he was a lake whisperer or whatever, but he did have a thing, and with understanding it. Again, he mentioned the 9-inch sweet spot and everything, but I am right now over 10 inches lower than normal at this time for the last X number of years, but definitely for last year when we were measuring and putting out the pier and stuff. When you mentioned a bit earlier about financials with people, you says, well, everybody kind of has to be okay with money they're putting in. And if you look at this side of the lake here, there's huge property values here and a lot of taxes being paid for someone who's short, soon could be in front of mud or a dried lake and so forth. So, we have a public ramp access now that, right now I think only fishing boats can get in. There's no way other boats can get through there. When the DNR was asked, well, how high do you want the water for the ramp? They said the higher the better, and I did a drive around the lake yesterday, and as was mentioned, there's parts of the stone that is actually gone when you go along the way. It gets swooped over. So, what we did was, a good try, but we don't know that 7 inches is the ideal. There's no science there just yet because we haven't given ourselves time to get data. So my ask the last time at the meeting was, can we just agree to what we've been doing for the last 16 years and stick to the 9 to 12 inches, do a motion for that, and give us time to gather the data, give us time to understand that, hey, if we get to 9 to 12 inches, yes, the water is starting to, the road is starting to wash away or whatever, and then consider what the action is right now. We had a road that hasn't been maintained very well, and we're struggling with the best way. But frankly, during the summer, Mike told us that everybody was happy when the road was closed, but passable because it was safer, because you have houses, road, and then all those piers and kids and everybody else going there. So again, as late as July 20th of 2020, here was what was documented. Drain closed, water 1 foot above the weir, LSD, Lakeshore Drive was closed and passable, and the drain was left closed until November 1st. So again, we're not asking anything that hasn't already existed for the last 16 years. And likewise, we care about those few houses that have to access. There's 3 houses along there. 2 of them are on the east side, 1 is on the west side. And when when I'm looking at it, it's like, well, wait a minute, the fire truck can come pretty darn close, and I'm sure a hose could run to those 2 houses, but I don't know that for sure. But we're asking for time so we can go and verify that, as well as the other property at the other end, because again, we do care about everybody's safety and stuff. And even my house, I have a long, steep drive. That hose has to make it pretty long to get through. And Christine was nice enough to check on, do the fire department still use the water out in the lake to put out fires? Well, they don't. They need dry hydrants, but then you need 5 feet of water. So we're struggling. The community is working so hard to try to get their arms around all these complex issues for the lake, because it's really a lake management. I talked to Dave Smith for quite a long time earlier this week. He's going to come out, he's going to go around the lake with us, he's going to help to train us, because we at the community, we don't want to work Christine to the bone, measuring and whatever, and we would like to get out there ourselves and measure the height of the lake, measure the precipitation, figure out what it is and how all these factors interact so that we can indeed take care of a lake that we all love and we all want, use of and keep it healthy. And we're looking into, are the septics okay? Is the water okay? I mean, this list is long, but as is all the government agencies we have to work with to do it. So again, we're just asking for time. Just give us till the fall, track it, and as soon as an event comes, let's put our arms around it and work together to solve it. That's all we're asking, is to make a motion so that we have a chance. I don't want to do that recording every week to watch a slow death of our lake, not because the drain's open, but because evaporation's happening. And that's actually how we started, exactly the scenario. So when our hearts are pounding us in the community, it's because we actually lived through it. And we didn't have water for 3 years. We could not put out a boat. We could not, enjoy it. I mean, I had to rent slips that aren't even available today. And I don't have a trailer for my pontoon, so, I don't even know what I could do with it and stuff. So anyway, our plea is, and again, I'm representing Hudson Lake Conservation Association and a host of others who have added themselves to the list and asked me to be their voice. It's difficult for people to get here at 8:30 in the morning, those who work and so forth, and now that we don't have Zoom, they can just observe. So believe me, I'm in communication. They've all received what I was talking about and are behind what I'm saying. So think of 100 families behind me when you're listening to my voice. Yes, but it's minimally spring-fed. We get some waters from Saucony that flow into it, and then the spring-fed. But unfortunately, once that west end dries up, that spring dries up as well, which is what happened the last time. It's popped back from what I'm told, but in the report, it had dried out. So that is, again, we're talking about half of a 400-acre, 430, 40-acre lake that dried up. And that's my plea. To live through that again, I can't even imagine it. I wake up at nightmares. So.
Well, the drain's been closed since, March or whatever, and it's been closed. And with the rain we've had, it's at like 7.5 inches right now. So if it never even gets higher than that, it's out. I mean, I'm not God yet, so I can't control everything.
So we can't
it's closed right now. I'm not gonna open it, and it's obviously, it's at a little over 7 inches. It's dry all over right now. If it never even gets any higher than it is right now, like I said, it's been closed for 2 months.
And I get that.
And the other point I want to make, if the county commissioners, because the road is under their jurisdiction, they want to overrule our board and say, we don't care if there's water on the road, this is where, if they want to make a ruling and say where they want the water and tell us what their directive is, I think we're good with that. Until I hear otherwise, until I get a directive from higher up the food chain to do something differently.
So how does...
But the drain is closed right now.
Yeah,
It's
so-
been closed.
give me my instructions.
You need to go to the commissioners and get on their agenda for their next meeting and
All
bring
right.
it up.
So-
Because they would overrule us.
So
Yeah.
like meaning Joe Haney?
Joe Haney, Rich
County
Krasinski,
commissioners.
and Sheila.
Okay,
So,
And-
like I said, I only have...
And Dwayne.
right. And I've talked to Dwayne. And again, it's the... And I so appreciate that the drain has been
It's been
closed. The
closed,
problem
so
is
if it-
dealing with the evaporation.
Yeah.
And as the rest of the summer
And
comes
also...
along.
It's all over like that.
Not to beat a dead horse, but I look through those old lake maps, and from like 46, that whole west side of Hudson, the deepest that ever was like 10 feet. That whole west side of Hudson was never historically that high of a lake. So, and then we get the years where, the
So,
The water level is just up and down, up and down, and up and down, and I got that thing closed right now, it's been closed for 2 months. It's at 7.5 inches, there's only so much, and I know Tony said that last month, we keep it closed, but, I mean, we're at the mercy of God and Mother Nature too, as well. We don't have 100% control over the level just by virtue of that valve, but it is closed. Like I said, if I get a different directive,
so can I ask that it go to 9 inches, a sweet spot?
But-
Because
but if
so
it
we-
doesn't, because it's a dry year,
No,
I don't want to
I-
get hung up on the
No, I
wall
understand, but-
because it's low. Because if we have a dry year, there's nothing anybody can do about it. And it's super dry right now. I drive out in the southern part of the
Okay,
county.
so,
And we
And
have
it's
to go to
just
the
super
DNR
dry.
because the DNR has
And-
what level it's
and-
supposed to be at.
Yeah, and their
And so-
legal level is 7 inches below
Yeah.
where it is right now.
so I talked to Dave Smith, and he's going to come out, and he said, lakes across Indiana, in the spring, they keep it way over the weir, you know, because they know that it's going to go, and most of the time, they, do it at May 1st, and they don't address it again until November. We have a little unique thing because we have downstream flooding that could happen and stuff like that, so we, obviously, we don't want to be crazy with that because there's issues with that, and there's more to manage. But he said it was very typical for handshakes to happen, just as we did this very board in 2015, 2016, that we'll keep it at the 9 to 12 inches, because the 9 inches is a sweet spot, but the 12 inches give us a little more to get through the evaporation of the summer, and then we stay at the sweet spot, so to speak. So that's what we're struggling with, is that we've lived this very easily for the last 16 years, and we're just asking to continue to do the same. So.
Yeah, the levels naturally go up and down, but just to point out that last fall, Mike did drain it down to about 4 inches above the weir going into spring. So it was already at 4 inches above the weir when I had to take back over. So just, we know that. It was 4 inches above. And then we opened it for a little while because we were afraid we were gonna get a bunch of rain, which we didn't get, so we closed it back up. Right now it's at 7.5. If we have a dry year, which I think we're gonna have a dry year. If it never gets any higher,
Hey, if we
I
dry
can't
out
make
because
it rain, you
with the
know?
drain closed and we dry out, that's Mother Nature.
Yeah.
But if you open the drain,
it's not open right now,
No,
and we're not going to
I-
open
We're not gonna open
it
it.
if it's
Okay,
not going to
so-
be an issue.
but if it
And
goes
it's
up to
dry,
9
it's not going
inches,
to get,
you
then
kept
I'm
on
gonna
saying that you were
reassess.
gonna,
I'm gonna look at the road, and I'm gonna have the highway go out and look at the
Something
road
down
if
the
it's at 9 and see what they think.
okay, so we're gonna do what I asked last month. We're gonna
We'll go-
collect data, see an event,
Right.
and then figure out how to manage it.
Yeah,
Right.
All right?
like I said,
That's
it's,
what I wanted to hear, because all I was hearing was that 7 inches, it goes over, we're opening the drain.
well, it's a
Okay.
7.5 right now, and it's closed, so.
Okay.
We're not-
But I
we
don't
can't say
think we're
9
gonna get that much more rain this year, so I'm not gonna open it, thinking that when I drive out in the southern part of the county and it's just a dust bowl, if we don't get any more rain this year, I mean, obviously I'm gonna keep it closed. I'm not gonna go out there and open it, because as soon as it gets hot, you drop down to 5 inches above. But, I mean, we can only control so much. But like, I put that portal up for you guys, and if I come across information, I put it in there for you. I mean, we're in communication every week.
Is your weekly log that you're keeping, is it on that site?
My new one, no, because I only have like 5 entries.
Okay, but we would like it on that site.
Yeah.
Because then we can kind of see what's going on,
Yeah.
and we could see if something's happening or whatever. But know that the DNR is going to come down and it's going to train us. We're going to be able to do equipment. I had a question when you were talking about gauges of water levels and participation. Were there any of those automatic, or were they all someone going out and measuring them? I got it.
We can forward some information, because Scott Pilaf found these gauges, and they are automatic, and they are on an app, and they're online, and this is kind of a new company, and they're not very expensive, but we don't know where we'd put it in Hudson Lake, because it'd be really nice if you had a live gauge. But we don't know, because these are river gauges that are on bridges, so I don't know if DNR will let us stick a gauge out in the river because the boats might hit it, or where you would put this sort of gauge. It just measures every, whatever, 10
Because
or
we're in
20
a little,
seconds.
the area down here is a little more protected.
Yeah, and you gotta put it somewhere
Where-
that it won't dry up.
Right.
And you can't impact boat traffic, so it's a question of, I guess, if you guys would like to lead that charge, and maybe your conservation, we can give you who those people are. It becomes a live gauge with an app and a web map online.
We were
It takes
actually,
data.
as a community looking for that. So if you could send
I
that,
could send it, because Scott found this, because he got it from Fort Wayne, I think the Maumee district. But I guess what everyone's saying here, the gate is closed, and whatever Mother Nature gives us for rain, they give us for rain. If you want to go to 9 to 12 inches, the board, I presume, is telling you to move to the commissioners
Right.
and keep Dwayne involved and see if they say that 9 to 12 is okay. If they're okay, we're okay,
okay.
because it's their road.
That's what I needed was direction, because right now I felt like there was a million balls in the air, so I appreciate that. And so, can I give you my information so you
Well,
can?
Christie has it.
Oh, Chrissy, all right, so
Yeah,
you
so
can
you
give it
just
so
want
he
to
can
link to
sign
that,
it.
to that gauge. I
that website.
have that, I can send that.
That would be perfect. And is there anything related like that for precipitation measuring? Or not?
It's a brand new gauge, some guys that left Microsoft, and I think they're working on something like that. They got some, you'll need to go to their website, they got some really
Okay.
cool stuff.
All right, but any guidance, we appreciate it and everything, and so.
Yeah. But, I mean, and then the other thing too we're like really busy. So if I don't get my current data on the portal, don't get mad at me.
You
I-
took, you
know,
asked for
I
time, we
go
gave you
out-
time to put
I go
the
out
site together,
every,
so
I
we're
go out
good.
there every week and take a measurement if you want to know what it is, like, from week to week. But if I don't get that particular document up in the cloud, in my folder that I linked out to you, I got a million other things going on. I do my best to try to get you guys the information you need when you get it, but,
Yeah, and you've been
It is
very
what it is.
transparent, Christine, so I'm appreciating everything that people have given us the time so we can get educated and work as partners. We're not interested in fighting, we're trying to solve things, so, all right.
All right.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
One more thing.
Yes, I was just gonna say more public comment.
Last meeting, you talked about the triaxle going down to verify the subbase of the road. I didn't hear that.
Come
in
up
the-
closer to the
Oh,
mic.
I didn't hear that in the follow-up, the triaxle going down the road to figure out the subbase of that LSU road or whatever.
Did Dwayne say?
from my understanding, Dwayne took a ride out there
Yeah.
and looked at it, assessed it, and then they brought the gravel out.
Okay, so they were gonna, something like they were gonna put the triaxle on or something to verify if the
Yeah.
subbase is acceptable.
That was
That's
Tony's
something.
suggestion, and
Yeah.
he did get with the county highway, and he did go out and look at it.
So we assume with no news is good news, kind of
Well,
thing.
we assume that since they put gravel on there, they were not happy with the strength of the base.
Oh, okay.
But we'll have to ask Dwayne.
Yeah, that'd be a good follow-up to just make
Yeah.
sure that we're good there. And that's it. Other
Because he
than-
did it, and then he put gravel on there, so he must have been concerned about something. That's why
Well-
we're sending to the commissioners, because he's obviously, in Sarah Road, he obviously has some things he likes to talk about that road and that base.
Right, okay. Okay, then that was really it, other than I just paid $10,000 for a half year taxes, and anything you could do to keep the Eagles out there, that'd be great.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have any more public comment? Okay. Seeing as that, next meeting will be in June, and we're still here, right?
Yep,
June
we're
8th,
here the rest of the year,
Rest of the year.
at 8:30 in the morning.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yep. June 8th at 8:30 a.m.
Motion to adjourn. Meeting is adjourned.